In this video, we're going to cover monopoly, which is the market structure when one seller has the exclusive right or ability to produce a product. And so the key point here is that there's only one seller, and then there are significant barriers to entry. So there are normally either legal or physical barriers to entry, meaning that no other firm can engage in this market. So some examples are drug companies that after they've developed a new drug, they have the right to be the only company to produce it for a certain number of years. So that would be a legal barrier. Telephone companies that normally contract with a city, and so that would also be a legal barrier, but it would also be a physical barrier because there's only so much room for telephone poles in a city. And then water companies, which would be a physical barrier because they normally have all of the either canals or piping or distribution measures for the entire city. So there's really only going to be one water company. And so because there is not a single other firm in this market, the entire market's demand curve is faced by the monopoly. The monopoly gets to pick how much to produce for the entire market. So we have a demand curve and a marginal revenue curve, just like I was showing you in the revenue curve videos. And we're going to talk about the short run and the long run outcomes for this market. So in the short run, the monopolist produces where marginal revenue equals marginal cost. And this deserves a bit of explaining, and to me it's one of the most interesting lines of logic in all of economics. So pay really close attention, and I'll go through it slowly because I really do think it's important, and hopefully you'll get it the first time. If not, there's a rewind button and you'll get it the second. Alright, so if the monopolist is producing where marginal revenue is less than marginal cost, let's say that he's producing where marginal revenue is greater than marginal cost. Excuse me, I'm already flipping my words around. So let's say he's producing at Q1, which is 12 units. Then if he were to produce 13 units, marginal revenue would still be greater than marginal cost, which would mean on the 13th unit of production, he would make a positive profit for that unit of production. So he'll go ahead and produce that 13th unit because he'll make more on the 13th unit than it will cost him. Then so on for the 14th unit and the 15th unit. And even at the 16th unit, the monopolist will still be making more in revenue than it costs him to produce that extra good, to produce that extra unit of output, that extra unit of production. So for that train of reasoning, he will continue to produce up until the point where marginal revenue is equal to marginal cost. Now let's say that we start on the other side. Let's say that initially the monopolist is producing where marginal cost is greater than marginal revenue. Let's say that he's producing at like 30 units of output at Q, so this will be Q3, let's call it. So at this point, marginal cost is greater than marginal revenue, which means for the 30th unit of production, it costs the monopolist more to make that unit of output than he earns on it. So he'll be better off if he produces less. So he'll go ahead and decide, oh, you know what, I'll just go ahead and produce, say, like 29 units. And you know what, then he's going to realize still on that 29th unit, it's still costing me more to produce this unit of output than I'm making on it. And he'll continue to cut back his production all the way until the point where marginal revenue is exactly equal to marginal cost, which we're going to call this point Q star. So that's his optimal level of output. That's his profit maximizing level of output because he controls the entire market. He faces the entire market demand curve because he's the only person that can supply this product to this market. Alright, so I hope that made sense. If it didn't, go back, rewind, and listen to it again until it does make sense because the rest of the video won't make too much sense without it. So the next thing then is that he chooses to price his good at the level of demand for that quantity. So you find the optimal quantity where marginal revenue is equal to marginal cost, and then you go directly up to the demand line, and then you kind of do this like pinball move over to the price curve that is parallel to where you get the demand curve. So I'm saying this really poorly, but I think the picture makes it clear. That you find the optimum quantity, and then you go up to demand and over to find your optimal price. So this is P star. And so the monopolist charges this much because he wants to sell all of his optimum output. He wants to sell all of the goods that he produces. So now we have our optimum quantity, Q star, and our optimum price, P star. So now let's talk about profit. In the short run, and this is a short run monopoly diagram, so I'll go ahead and write this is a short run where we're earning a loss actually. Short run loss for a monopoly. You can earn a profit or a loss in the short run. And so I decided to show you the loss first because the profit is the more obvious one and we don't really think about monopolies earning a loss. So you'll see what this diagram looks like if the monopoly makes a profit, but I just wanted to go ahead and show you the loss first. So it's making a loss here because price is less than average total cost. So average total cost is right up here, and it's just a little bit over 200. So we'll just call this average total cost star. And because the monopolist is not making, on average, as much for each good as it costs him to produce it, he's making a loss. And the actual value of his loss is average total cost minus price times quantity, which is represented by this rectangle right here. So this is his, I'll just write it up here, this is his loss. So let's say, for example, that average total cost was $210 and price was, so I'll just write $210 here, and price was, let's say, $190. And then let's say that Q star was, just to make my math not too complicated, 22, 23, and my math will be a little complicated. We'll make it 24. So the loss is going to be 210 minus 190, 210 minus 190, which is equal to 20. So he's losing $20 on average for each unit of output. And he produces 24 units of output. So 20 times 24. 0, 4 times 2 is 8. 0, 2 times 0 is 2, times 4. So he loses $480 in the short run. Now, why does he continue to produce if he's losing $480? And the answer is that he would be losing more in fixed costs if he didn't produce anything at all. So because price is above average variable cost, he is going to produce a positive amount of output. So that's this third point here. That a monopolist will shut down if price is less than average variable cost, but will continue to produce otherwise. And the reason is that he's losing less than he would if he just paid his fixed cost and didn't produce anything. So his fixed cost is more than $480 per time period. Alright, so that's all that I'm going to say about the short run. And now we're going to get on to the long run, and I'll show you a diagram where a monopoly is earning a profit, which is what it has to do in the long run. So I'm gonna scroll down so you can see this entire graph, but I just want to talk about these two bullet points right here. So the monopolist in the long run still produces where marginal revenue is equal to marginal cost, and profit must be at least 0, and it can be positive in the long run. So those are the two things I wanted to point out, and now I'm going to go ahead and show you the diagram. So this is a monopoly earning a profit, monopoly profit, and I'll put here in parentheses that it could be short run or long run. Alright, so when a monopoly is earning a profit, we still, for the exact same logic as above, produce where marginal revenue is equal to marginal cost. So we'll call this Q star. And again, we go right up to the demand curve and kind of pinball over to find our optimum price, which is P star. And then in the long run, a monopoly will shut down if it's not going to earn at least 0 economic profit, because the money could be spent better somewhere else. So here this monopoly is earning actually a positive profit, which it also can in the long run. And we are going to go ahead and calculate what that profit will be, or at least explain to you how to calculate it. So profit then is price minus average total cost times quantity, which is going to be represented by this box right here. So let's say that price, I'm just going to pull a number out here. Let's say that it is, let's say it's $310. And then let's say that average total cost is $200. So we're going to have 310 minus 200 times quantity, which we'll say is going to be 30, I don't know, 33, sound good? Times 33. So graphically, the profit that this monopoly earns is this green box right here. It is the difference between price and average total cost at the optimum level of production, which is where marginal revenue is equal to marginal cost. And so numerically that will be $110 times $33. And 3 times 0 is 0, 3 times 1 is 3, times 1 is 3, write the 0, 0, 3, 3, 0, 3, 6, 3. So in the long run, this monopoly is making $3,630 profit. So that's really all that I want to say about Monopoly. It can earn a profit in the long run because of its barriers to entry. It will also continue to operate in the long run if profit is equal to 0, and that would just look like where price is exactly equal to, so here, I'll go ahead and draw that in. If we had a demand curve that went like this, and of course the marginal revenue curve would shift also, but let's just pretend that it stays the same for a second. It wouldn't, but just for simplicity, let's pretend it did. Then profit would be 0 because price would be exactly equal to average total cost at the optimum level of output. So that's what it would look like if it wasn't earning an economic profit. So we have Monopoly earns either 0 or a positive economic profit in the long run, and in the short run it can earn either a loss or it can make either a loss or a positive profit. And the monopolist chooses to produce where marginal revenue is equal to marginal cost. So that's all that I'm going to cover on this. If you have any questions, let me know, and I'll see you in the next video.